The Office is well loved, and so we knew that what it does well would work. It would make people laugh. It would draw them in.
If you're gonna make the best possible product in the end, you have to know your footage.
We're gonna go pioneer this bizarre frontier of something wild and difficult that yet there's zero examples in the world.
Founded in 1999 by Jason Burks, Retrospec Films is Oklahoma's largest turnkey production company of its kind. With a full-time team of over 20 talented individuals, a 12,000 square foot studio to create in, and a resume that spans some of the world's largest brands, if you love learning about filmmaking and storytelling, you've come to the right place. On each episode, we discuss the pursuit of creating things and the problems we solve by digging up projects from the last 20 years, giving you a glimpse behind the scenes where the magic happens. You're listening to Retrospec Films from the Archives.
Hey everybody, thanks for joining us on Retrospect from the Archives, our in-house podcast where we dig up old projects and dissect them and talk about all the different things, the problems that we solve to create things in the world of filmmaking, which it is a lot. Joined with me today is my wife, Tayler, who is also our creative development director, and Caroline, writer, director, and,
Creative strategist.
Creative strategist.
It's a weird name. That's why you can never remember what I am.
You're strategic in your creativity.
That's it.
So today we are going to talk about a very unique project in which we were able to pay homage to a great, well-loved TV series known as
The Office.
Yeah. And I guess that was really, I don't know, which one of you actually said, let's go that road?
It's a brainstorm with a lot of people.
Yeah, I think we had Chris, Cole, me,
Joel.
Caroline, Joel, all in a creative development meeting at Perea.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Cole had kind of like mentioned a idea that was kind of similar to The Office, and from that spurred.
We're like, what if we just do The Office?
I said that. Yeah, I was like, what if we just parodied The Office? Because
Yeah.
we had initially done a project for Olivia when she was with WPX that was parodying different famous movie scenes. And so that was kind of the creative level that we were going for.
Yeah.
And The Office has some really interesting characters that we thought we could do some really fun things. So that was our favorite. And I guess
picked
it was
it.
there too.
Yep.
So
So before we go too far, because you're still probably like, what are you guys even talking about? What happened here is we had a oil and gas production company come to us, of which the person in the safety role had worked with us before, and we had done some really, really creative stuff for WPX, and they said, we would like to make another safety video that's highly creative, not boring, has to be, 20-ish minutes.
Yep.
And so then we were like, all right, what roads could we go down? That's where we ended up presenting a handful of creative, but one of the creatives was a parody of The Office. And what this piece would do is go through all the topics cleverly. And when we say a parody of The Office, obviously, as you know, that means you have to cast characters, and we thought verbatim would be the best way to make sure the audience has any idea what we're doing.
Right.
So let's roll the trailer. There's a pretty funny little trailer.
yeah, for
let's roll
sure.
that trailer. If you watch The Office, you'll probably see the little pieces that are very similar to the intro of The Office. So let's start with conception and writing. I feel like you two were both obviously sitting around, coming up with ideas, doing that thing where you keep nagging me to try to get me to read it sooner than I have time for, which is currently still going
like
on
every
with
day.
other
Yeah.
projects. Did you read it yet? Are you going to read it? You going to read it? I'm like, I haven't read it yet.
you don't read it.
We
But-
greenlight it. I'm just
Collaborative.
kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe Tayler, talk to me. And I guess you guys both worked on the writing.
Yes.
Yeah. And the characters a little
Yes.
bit. Taylor, why don't you kind of kick us off a little bit of why it even made sense to attempt to do a parody of The Office? Like what goes into it besides just like, well, The Office is fun.
I think that there was just such, like, the stereotypes in The Office, the characters are so amazing. And when we were thinking of, like, how to create something creative out of a safety video, which is kind of hard to do, we thought those characters could be amazing in that space. So like you have Michael Scott, who's kind of your anti-safety character, who's doing all the wrong things, even though he thinks he's doing the right thing. You have Dwight, who's like trying to make Michael proud, but also trying to be like really strict and the safety officer. And then you have all these other personalities that, whether are just extremes over here, or kind of like your Jim and Pam characters that kind of anchor you. And I think that we just loved The Office and thought it would be a fun way to tell that story. And so I knew it was a big thing because obviously when you're doing safety videos, it's because you want people to be safe in a dangerous environment. So it's like, how do you bring comedy to a space like that while also encourage people to take
and not just comedy,
seriously?
Satire.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And so Caroline and I mean, we were just trying to figure out how much time we spent on this. I really think it was like a day. We took their safety handbook, which is like very long. And we were like going through it. Yes. And we were like, okay, what are the things that are kind of repetitive? I think we kind of sectioned them off into different episodes per se, like what could happen on the job site and what could happen in like a typical office workspace. And then we kind of just dove in, like, which was kind of crazy because we didn't have an outline or anything. We just kind of went for it.
We did kind of take one of the episodes as kind of our mental map. And we were like, okay, we broke down a real episode of The Office. And in that episode, Dwight was playing this role of like safety monitor or like safety
where
leader.
He like started a fire.
Yeah, so we kind of took that as our blueprint. And then from there, we divulge into like different storylines and things like that. But that was a nice starting point for us.
And for all you Office lovers, it was stress relief. I
yes,
believe was
the
title
stress relief
of the
episode.
It was perfect. And he started a fire. And like one of the big things in the TGNR handbook was like what to do with an emergency or a fire.
Yeah.
And so we really honed in on that for the first episode. And then obviously the second episode that we did, I use episode lightly, it was like 10 minutes, but was on site. And that was a little bit easier because we had this tour guide character, Cole, who was the TGNR representative, explaining safety pretty straightforwardly. And then we used the characters kind of as the comedic relief for the moments where we're like, all right, we just need a little break from the safety.
Steel toe boots, ANSI Z41 approved, upper ankle support with slip resistant soles. Check.
Safety glasses?
ANSI Z87.1 approved, side shields required for prescription glasses.
Hard hats.
ANSI ISEA Z89.1 approved.
Are you going to be doing this the whole time?
Yes. Yes, I am.
Okay.
And honestly, I felt like the execution of it through post, it turned out exactly how I feel like we envisioned it in the creative, which was awesome.
Well, I know that we're going to obviously have Jess and Kyle join me for the second half of this. But before we get out of this topic for you guys, I'd love to, Caroline, maybe get some of your thoughts on this, and then Tayler maybe as well. I remember the day that you guys were writing it only because you were so excited. Wherever you guys went,
We laughed so hard.
you went somewhere.
We cracked ourselves up.
You thought it was really genius, which I think it was genius.
Because we're geniuses, duh.
But what I want to talk about is, some of these topics, like, I mean, Retrospec gets hired to do things that, like are very hard.
Yeah.
And like, almost everything we do, no one's ever done before. And everything we do is supposed to be great. It's supposed to be entertaining, fun, educational, clever. An old phrase we used to use was things worth watching.
Right.
And I think this was a prime example of that, where it's like, okay, like, we're going to go pioneer this bizarre frontier of something wild and difficult that yet there's zero examples in the world.
Yes.
Right.
Like, no one's ever done this.
Yeah.
And when people write, I don't even know what they call it. There's like a creative flow that you can get in, and it's amazing when you're in that flow. It's like the opposite of writer's block, like it's easy. It's just happening. Now, I don't know if this day was like that, but I'd love to kind of hear your opinion, Caroline, and then maybe yours, Tayler, because the magic of any complex idea is the idea. It's the idea. Like, anybody can shoot.
Yeah.
Honestly, lots of people can shoot, lots of people can produce, lots of people can light, lots of people can do lots of things. But but coming up with an idea that's actually executable, that's great. That's the rarity in our business.
Yeah.
So talk to me your feelings.
Well, I think that's so true. And it was one of those days where things were just flowing, thankfully. I think that this project was creative problem solving at its finest. The problem being safety videos are boring. People don't want to watch them. How do we overcome that? Well, we have to make something that's entertaining and funny and interesting. And we found that The Office was the perfect vehicle for that because we had so many characters and personalities to play with. And, you know, a history of success. The Office is well loved. And so we knew that what it does well would work. It would make people laugh. It would draw them in, right? And so as we kind of endeavored to do this, it was very organized in a sense that we were going page by page of their manual and brainstorming ways, okay, how could we fit this scenario or this, you know, topic into a scenario with these characters?
Yeah.
Would Stanley be someone that would talk about this? Would Dwight be someone that would talk about this? And kind of frame it that way. And then we just put a bunch of ideas on a page. And then we were kind of just like, I don't know, dragging those ideas into the script and organizing it and formatting it, not formulating it.
Yeah.
I don't know, formatting
Both
it.
of it. We were formulating it and formatting it.
Exactly. And it was just working for some reason. And obviously we had to revise and move and cut and all the things that you do when you're writing.
Yeah.
But we were laughing, we were enjoying, and I think we were surprising ourselves with like how it was working too. But like I said before, I think that The Office really was just the perfect vehicle for something like this.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it got us excited. So
How did you feel, Taylor?
I mean, I felt the same way. I felt like it flowed so nicely, which is awesome because sometimes you go into co-writing situations. I think co-writing can be a very difficult thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And thankfully, I feel like Caroline and I have similar thought processes. So it was just like really fun because I feel like we were able to be very candid with each other and be like, yeah, that's not working, or like, let's try this. And so it was just like really easy.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like we kind of got a rhythm on like, okay, we need this many jokes for this much information. So we would be like, okay, let's say this in a very straightforward way, and then we'll add a Michael Scott joke to break up the other information. And or this is like easily communicated, so how do we add this into a joke? And I feel like we kind of got into that rhythm of like information joke, which really helped it flow as well.
Yeah. And I think we had to like know The Office pretty well.
Yes.
So I had watched The Office like in its entirety, you know, in the last couple of years. And so that was somewhat fresh on my brain. And then Taylor was like researching and studying and rewatching things. And so we kind of got it in our bones a little bit. And then I think because of that, we were able to swiftly have ideas about how we could utilize what safety element where.
I agree. And then I think too, like, I mean, this is getting into the producing, but when we found the people to play the characters, they brought their own element to it that was so fun to watch. Like Renee as
Meredith.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was like blanking on the name. I wanted to say Pam, and I'm like, that's not right. But they all came so excited and prepared, and they all loved the script too, which I feel like that just makes it really fun as well.
And I think it comes back to everyone loving The Office too, because like
100%.
everybody wants the chance to portray Jim or Dwight.
Right.
Like everyone wants
Scott.
that chance. And so, and I even felt that as a writer, like I want to do this really well. Like I want to pay homage. I never know how to say that. Homage to such a great, you know, work.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
Well, that's great. Well, I think you guys both did a really good job on the writing.
Thank you.
And of course, we're not talking about, you didn't make it on the production, you broke your leg.
Sadly.
You know, Taylor was on set and it was fun shooting it. And you even directed a few interviews.
I did. I was forced into that situation.
Because I was irritated.
You were great.
I was irritated. I was like, just direct it. Like, just, you're going to be fine. But
the beauties of working with your loved one.
you did great. All right, well, let's bring Jess and Kyle out.
Fire prevention measures include discussing fire prevention in EHS meetings per JSA, immediate cleanup after spills, proper storage of flammable rags in metal containers, and smoking only in approved designated areas.
Okay, so join with me now is Kyle, our post-production director. He's also an editor. He also loves music.
Yep.
he sang a little ditty of a Rick Astley song the other day for me.
I did. I have a bass. I have a really low voice.
And we got Jessica. Jessica, producer, client manager, and doer of all other things that no one else will do.
That's me.
Hair and makeup, and
Yeah.
stab people with butter knives when they won't move fast enough.
Yeah, only butter knives. Don't worry.
Yeah, just butter knives.
Not puncturing the skin.
No, yeah, just kind of like a scratch.
Yeah,
More of a
yeah.
scratch. So we're talking about TGNR. We've
Yes.
dug through basically creative. So let's go into this next phase. Let's talk a little bit about the producing side of this, of the actual shoot. Which, you know, I mean, the cool thing about Retrospec is we don't really put a lot of parameters on ourselves. I think that if we did, we wouldn't do half of the things we do. Because, like, most people be like, what? No, that's unsafe, or that's impossible, or we don't have the budget. That's what everybody'd say. I don't have a budget for that, you know? And I'm like, if I complained about budget, I would not get the chance to create anything cool. So I'm like, let's figure it out. So talk to me about this one just kind of from a producing perspective. Like, we've talked pretty heavily about creative in the office, but what are the elements that then have to get executed for this thing to get shot?
Well, you have to find an office. That's the number one thing that you have to do. So we were kind of lucky too because TGNR doesn't, they all work remote. So they had this beautiful office open to us and we were able to use that, which I'm so glad we were able to utilize it and move desks and everything because we were then able to utilize the desks that they had and really make it look like the office. And Tayler did a great job at props and wardrobe and stuff. So she got a lot of things that are naturally in the office that you see from episode to episode. But another thing was also we had to shoot on an oil rig too. And that was big. You know, everyone had to have FR suit, fire retardant suits, helmets, safety glasses, gloves, all of the things. And we had to get the people, cleared on the set. So that was one thing. But also finding people that somewhat looked like these characters was a huge thing too. And acted like them too. Because I have a blonde wig on in there, but I was Angela. But, that's hard to find people, especially in Houston, because I haven't done a bunch of jobs and producing in Houston. So finding a talent agency to work with, which I did, and they were great. They had a bunch of great people, but we pulled someone from LA. We pulled someone from Oklahoma City, a few from Tulsa, and then a few others from Houston. So they were all from different areas, which is a nice element to have as well. But I really think we did a great job at it. And the script made it super easy and amazing because I think it really showcased The Office, but in a TGNR fashion.
Yeah.
And that's what we were kind of aiming to do.
Yeah. So, I guess I'll touch just a tiny bit on the shoot myself too. I was directing most of it, except for when I handed it off to you and Tayler. For that one little scene, the famous scene.
Yeah,
It'll
we're
never
gonna
be
call
forgotten.
it the famous
It'll
scene.
never be forgotten where I got irritated and told Tayler to direct. But I think that one thing I would like to point out is that sometimes as a director, and it's common in Hollywood too, directors tend to like their actors. They know actors they like. I mean, you go watch a Tim Burton film and you're going to see a lot of the same actors film after film after film, and it's because they have a chemistry, they've worked together, they know it works. And we all can tend to be that way. I think that many times when we take on comedic things, there's certain actors that I'm like, we got to cast them. Like, they're great, they're funny, they get what I'm trying to do. I like their improvisational skills. And this was one of those where we started to go down that road, but then the schedule and the timing didn't work out. And I was like, dang it, this is going to be a hard thing to pull off because if like these lead characters aren't funny, this video will suck.
Right.
And yet, how awesome was it to have such a great surprise when you guys did the auditions? And really, I'd say it was like Dwight and Jim were kind of the...
And Michael.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're kind of the crux point
Yeah.
where it was like if
absolutely.
Michael and Dwight weren't good,
Then
this piece falls apart. And those guys were just phenomenal. And so it was nice because even though there does requires some directing. This is a different style because you have multiple cameras. We're mimicking The Office with zoom lenses, and we're popping in on Jazz, and I've got 3-4 cameras going all the time. I'm running one of them myself, trying to direct talent, but you're letting them be improvisational. We did have a script. We had to hit the script, but we also like gave room for some fun and let characters be characters, let them method act a little bit, which I really liked. Honestly, I thought the shoot went pretty fluid.
Yeah, I mean, we had 2.5 days to complete it because we had to travel from Houston to Shreveport, basically, to film on the rig. So we shot all of the Office scenes in one day. It was a long day.
It was a long day.
Over 12 hours, sorry. But we got it all done.
Yep.
So then the next day we were able to get a few more things. The next day it was like interviews with Dwight and Michael, but we kept it very minimal that day. That way we could head to Louisiana. And then the next day was an extremely long day on the rig. But the schedule was very to the point, you know? And it was nice that the rig and the Office, I don't know, they just gave us a bit of freedom as well. So that was really, really nice.
And we filmed on rigs a ton.
Yeah,
which
exactly.
helps. You know, like I probably know the rig parts better than most of the guys working there.
Yeah,
I'm
true.
like not trying to show off, but this is like my 200th rig to be on.
Yeah.
Well, Kyle, let's talk a little bit about the post-production, because I think that every project we do has its unique obstacles. This one had unique obstacles because you're bringing in 4 or 5 cameras, and then it's comedy.
Yeah.
Comedy's a whole other animal.
Yep.
You know, I always say that like sometimes it's funnier to see the person reacting to the action than the action, you know, like, but you got to have it.
Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about, I mean, you were the editor on this.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, it was, you know, from the get-go, we had essentially 1 month to get this. We started in January and client needed it in end of January, essentially. And we have this 22-minute episode that we're trying to cut together to make it feel interesting, fun, captivating from the very, very get-go. And like you mentioned, there's 3 or 4 cameras that are on basically every scene. There's 5 to 6 takes of every scene, and I'm watching every take from one angle, going back, watching the other angle, going back, watching another angle. So it's a time-consuming process because as an editor, it's extremely important that you watch every little frame from every angle. If you're going to make the best possible product in the end, you have to know your footage. And so it was a lot of, you know, just doing the dirty work of just watching through everything. And that was probably a week's worth of work, just going through intentionally. Tayler had directed on set a little bit and was on set. So she sat with me, helped pull selects and everything like that. But yeah, like you mentioned, like the comedy side of it, like, you know, we're recreating an episode of, you know, this critically acclaimed TV show. And so, you know, of course I had to do my homework and watch a few episodes myself.
Oh, so much fun.
But that helped me get an idea of like pacing, delivery. You know, a lot of it is just, you know, when do you cut away? When do you decide to stay on a person? How do you leave silence to leave this comedic effect? Do you add something to add some effect, you know? So it was a ton of back and forth. And I remember cutting a couple scenes and being like, oh, this is incredible. And then Taylor would be like, we need to look at this again. I'm like, oh, dang. But, you know, that's part of the process of being an editor is just, you know, being okay with, you know, giving up your baby, your first proof and saying, we got to make something better in the end. And let's follow through and make the vision the best we can. So it was a long 4-week process, but it was a whole lot of fun. The edit side was a blast. You know, obviously the color grading was, you know, we got to make it look like The Office. Sound design, there's tons of Office sound effects that we threw in there. We had made our own Foley at some points.
Nice.
So yeah, it was a crazy 4-week process, but it was a whole lot of fun.
How did you feel about the edit when it was all said and done?
I felt really, really good. You know, I remember watching it in the end being like, I actually feel like this could be like like season 7 of the actual Office. Like you can slide this in somewhere and be like, okay, this actually makes sense. I remember watching it with my wife at home and she was laughing at the points where I was like, oh, please laugh, please laugh, please laugh, please laugh.
Yeah.
So I felt really, really accomplished at the very end of it. So it was great.
That's great. Jess, to close us off, I wanted to talk a little bit about just working with the client. Like that's an art, right? And this is a tricky project too.
Yes.
You know? So like Olivia has a big ask. We've worked with her in the past doing something epically creative. Really set the bar high. So when she
Yeah.
came to us with this, I was like, oh boy, how do we supersede like recreating the Matrix and Forrest Gump from, back in the old days. But I think what was unique that I wanted you to talk about is that there's still, even though like the script was approved, but this kind of a project is very wild and imaginative. And people don't always know. I mean, there's so many things, right? Like satire and how does it translate? So we're working on this and they're watching stuff and they're having some various bits of feedback where it's like, this isn't working for us. We love this. We don't like that. Talk to me just a little bit about that. And I know Tayler even like worked through some rewriting and rethinking with Kyle. So even though like we didn't have to reshoot anything, but we did have to like listen and adapt. So talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so when we first shot the script, it was approved but when you kind of get into that editing process, you start figuring out a few things. And after, we sent the first client baby proof, they, took a look at it and said, well, maybe a few things didn't hit, maybe, some places are kind of awkward or we feel like we're making safety a joke when really this is a safety video and we want to keep people safe. So there's a fine line there that you kind of have to dance around. So I worked with her on finding the points where she kind of wanted to correct those. And, Tayler and Kyle worked in the edit and really made that stuff work. Tayler also, she put together a script, The Voice of Reason. And I think that was a great addition to the video that was really needed in order to kind of
offset the comic relief.
Offset like just the office is wild and crazy and it is awkward and you
it's
cringe.
Very politically incorrect.
Yes, you cringe at Michael Scott, but safety, you really don't want to cringe. You just want to know how to be safe.
Yeah.
So Tayler put this script together and we sent it over to Olivia. She said, yes, we need to do this. So then we had to cast someone to kind of fit that role, and Jason first played the role and
the worst hairdo of my whole life. Jess was like
so bad.
doing all this stuff to my hair. I didn't want to be in it. Side note, I was just trying to help illustrate something.
Right.
Yeah.
But he had to look, like clean cut corporate America. So I had to kind of, swoop his hair over. He did not like that
I don't know how to
all.
do clean cut.
Well, your hair is so naturally great. You can just go like this and then you're good to go.
Well, I'll take that as a compliment.
Yeah, because I am not like that. But once we got that Voice of Reason shot and put in the edit, oh man, Olivia was so happy. Jared was so happy. They were like, this is going to be perfect. But that was quite the challenge, to figure out, oh gosh, did we just like ruin everything? Which I knew we didn't. And Olivia even told me, she was like, I know you guys know what you're doing. You guys will figure it out and find a way. I'm not worried about it, which was kind of nice of her to say, And we also had a little bit more time, from the end of January due date. So it was nice to have that kind of flexibility, but it's a process, you have to work with your client and kind of know how to understand their needs and take care of them. So it's huge.
Yeah. I mean, it's a prime example of that. And I think what's also cool is from a creative solution perspective, which obviously you'd have to watch it to understand what she's describing, but we didn't increase the budget.
Nope.
We didn't go, we didn't throw a bunch of stuff in the trash. We just came up with a way to fix a problem, and which was great. It worked really nicely. So, well, that's all we have today on this project. Appreciate you guys joining us. Hopefully, you enjoyed learning a little bit about this very unique, complex, weird safety video that we did for TGNR and a recreation of The Office. So, we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.